I wondered if the rants and raves have always been part of the
Oh, here.
section, a part of Craigslist, and what the history is of that.
Rants and Raves, part of the reason for its creation was that there are people who want attention. And some of them will try to get it by being as obnoxious as possible. And sometimes they'll just be outright crazy. Sometimes they'll be semi-lucid and like attack other people by virtue of taking something they said and then misrepresenting it. We get a lot of that because that reflects real human life. And if it's in Rants and Raves, it's much better there than in other sections. So what we're doing is we're accommodating some of the behavior in a way that's relatively sanitized. This applies to other areas too, where we try to confine activities that not everyone will share appreciation of. The bigger problem are the people who are needy in some sense, again, who will attack other people, sometimes harassing them, or will just misrepresent other people. We're starting to see an increasing amount of that in our political discussion boards, which is really annoying. Like there's people who have attacked Hillary for years, although oddly enough I can see them also posting in manners in which they express fetishes regarding Hillary, which are unusual even for San Francisco. Yeah, and we see a fair amount of racist material directed against Obama, stuff like that. We see one guy who says who's part of Bush Cheney '04, and I say guy because sometimes he posts as a guy. Normally he does, but now and then he'll post as a woman, and he often is confused as to what his ethnicity is, because he'll post different ways. And we're getting more of this, which is one reason I pay attention to the whole swift boater kind of thing, using that term generically.
Oh, I was wondering if you could talk about how the site is received internationally, and also have you ever run into censorship problems like in China or in any other countries?
Internationally, we've had sites, we have sites in 50 countries now. Our growth overseas is really slow. There's reasons for that. We only started introducing multiple language support and localization in November, starting with Spanish, though not for the most obvious of reasons, but it's because the programmer is from Madrid, and that was our first Spanish language city. We now are in about 5 languages, focusing on ones where basically we know people who can do translation for us, but our overseas growth is slow. As for censorship overseas, we don't know. I have a feeling we've just not looked or heard complaints.
I always try to tell my students that there's no such thing as a stupid question, so I want to ask you one. How do you make money?
The principle is, I think now it was 99 when I asked a lot of people, what's the right way to pay the bills and do a little better than that? And they said charge advertisers who are paying more money for less effective ads. The strong consensus was okay to charge for job ads and for real estate ads. There's some other smaller consensus for other areas. So we charge for job ads in 11 cities. That is, we charge recruiters and employers. And in New York City alone, we charge for apartment listings. That gets rid of some kinds of scams and gets rid of the perceived need to post and repost the same apartment over and over again. We charge way under market in general, and for apartments, we charge way, way under market, and somehow that works.
Do you say how much Craigslist makes? Or you don't say how much you make, you say how much Craigslist?
We don't discuss money at all, really. Yeah, we make enough for me to buy gadgets, because the staff is under direction to keep me distracted with gadgetry so that I don't feel tempted to help.
Back there? Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you if there were any particular areas that you felt were better suited or more effectively dealt with in print classified ads than on Craigslist.
Better areas, better suited by print than online. I don't know. I've never thought about it, honestly. And the deal with stuff online is that you can have as many words as you want, photos. If the ad has a mistake, you can correct it immediately. When the ad, like when you've sold the item or whatever, you can get rid of it immediately. So I don't, my imagination fails me. I don't know of a better use for print than online. I guess if something's printed out, you can take it with you more easily, but you can print out the online stuff, and again, you'll have typically more information, including links to maps.
Speaking of which, I just read in the, I think it was a Wired story about a year ago, the guy who did the first Maps mashup, Craigslist
Yeah.
Maps, and they hired him to be the Maps guy. How do you feel about people mashing up on top of Craigslist, using it as a platform?
I like the idea of it technologically. Our community has said typically okay as long as it's not being used for commercial purposes. People resent strongly, actually, when someone uses the stuff on our site for their own profit. And we do hear about it.
First of all, I had a question about threads. Like, when do you decide to add a new thread to?
Thread, okay.
And have you added any threads recently?
Thread of what?
Like, just like, because you have like the personals and you'll have misconnections. And when do you decide to add it?
Categories,
Oh, categories, sorry.
Basically, we listen to people, try to record what people are looking for. Jim takes a look at it now and then, and if he thinks he sees enough demand, he just puts it up there. There are some cases, unique markets, where we will differentiate more. Like in New York, apartments for rent became, broker fee, broker no fee, by owner, and we have something for apartment information vendors, which basically sell lists of apartments, which can be pretty dodgy. So in a way, it's Jim making it up when he feels like it. What was it? You had another question?
Oh, no. Well, I actually just wrote a story about Craigslist and used it to map out on the subway lines of New York, the misconnections. So thank you for giving me a story idea.
That's pretty good because the more I come here, the more I do use the subways. I even put extra money on my Metro card because I'll use it someday.
Do you foresee an editorial component ever on the Craigslist side of things, like kind of a reverse business model, starting with the classifieds and then moving into editorial, as opposed to starting with editorial, looking for ads? You already have the ads. Why not start an online newspaper?
So far, we still aren't, well, basically, we're not news, either in the straight news or editorial area. Maybe in the future we'll rethink that. I kind of like the idea, but right now we should stay focused, because basically we do one thing really well, and we don't want to screw that up.
Correct. The newspapers are going to deal with other definitions of the devil, whether that's Monster or Yahoo. You had newspapers come to you to say, you know what, we work together? Or not?
We have had that. We can never figure out a good reason for that. The main criterion always, again, how does that help out the community? Yeah. Again, would like to find better ways to help serve people with more trustworthy news, to identify the more honest versions of stories. But so far, that's still a hope, a future.
When you have to give up doing this, either because you sell it or because you die, because these things happen, what do you expect that the culture of Craigslist will continue as you've been talking about here today, or what do you think will happen to the site?
My commitment is through my lifetime, and we've made provisions beyond that. I live pretty close to University of California, San Francisco, where they do longevity research, or at least they could preserve my head.
But did you try to hire people who sort of think the same way you do, so that they can take?
We do hire people with similar values about Craigslist. They're kind of self-selecting, and that works.